You got it?
All right. Thank you for joining me. My name is Ann Carmichael, and I work for Leela. We're a nonprofit college access company right down the road from you guys in Baton Rouge. And it's time to talk about college and the cost of college. Those costs are going to include tuition, fees, your room and board if you're staying on campus, all your books and supplies and equipment, and of course, travel expenses if you have them. But the good news is that there are dollars available to help you pay for those expenses. Some of the federal dollars include the Pell Grant, the FSEOG, service grants, and teach grants. Federal Work Study, which are jobs available on your college campuses. And they are great first jobs and they look wonderful on your first professional resume. And then the student loans. And nobody likes to talk about student loans, and you are smart to be cautious about them. But if you do have to accept loans, you'll want to make sure that you are accepting your direct subsidized loans first. The interest on those loans are waived until the student graduates or ceases to attend. The direct unsubsidized loan is basically for everyone, where the direct subsidized loans are these are need-based loans. Your parents can borrow on your behalf if they would like to do that in the form of Parent Plus loans. And if anybody's in graduate school on our call, you can also borrow for graduate school. Now, all of these dollars can be used at 2 and 4 year colleges, community college, career and technical schools, for also for online programs, and as I mentioned, for graduate school. To access those dollars, you do need to complete the free application for federal student aid known as the FAFSA. When you complete the FAFSA, you are going to be considered for the TOPS scholarship. This is your TOPS application if you choose to complete. If you do not want to complete a FAFSA, you'll want to go on the TOPS website and complete their application. You'll be considered for the Pell Grant, Work Study, the Louisiana Go Grant, federal student loans, and in some cases, private scholarships and grants. It's kind of like your one-stop shop. To be eligible for federal student aid, you must be a U.S. citizen or national, have a green card, an arrival departure record, have battered immigrant status, or a T visa. If the student has one of these documents, then they are eligible for federal student aid. To get started with the FAFSA, you're going to want to gather all of the documents that you'll need to complete the form. You'll have to create your federal student aid ID. You'll want to gather your social security card, your social security cards, your federal income tax returns from 2024 and W-2s from that same period, and any bank and brokerage statements that you might have. Now remember that federal student aid uh, looks at your 2024 income. However, they want you to report your assets as of the date you submit the FAFSA. To begin the process, you will want to create your federal student aid ID. You will get started here, create your own username, select your password, and continue on through the process. Once you create your Federal Student Aid ID or FSA ID, you will begin the FAFSA. Now, tonight we're going to um, gear this presentation toward dependent students, and those are students that still have to provide parental information to be eligible for federal student aid. I'll talk a little bit about the difference between dependent and independent students in just a minute. You can see here that the class of 2026, the high school graduating class of 26, will want to complete the 26-27 FAFSA form. because you're applying for financial aid for the academic year that you're going to be entering school. So if you're starting this next fall, you will be in the 26-27 academic year. You can make edits or corrections to your FAFSA, and your parents can contribute all on this home page. So let's get started. The student has created his FSA ID, and he will use that to log in to begin a FAFSA. He will identify his role. It's best that students begin the form. They don't have to, but it's a lot simpler if the students begin. These are some of the screens that you will see within the FAFSA itself. Students will be asked to report their state of residence and the date that they became a resident of that state. And they will want to consent to have the IRS transfer their tax information and drop it directly into the FAFSA. This is going to save a lot of time, and it is now required. Even if you did not file a return in 2024, you still must agree to have the IRS check your record. Once you select that, you will see that, hopefully you'll see this screen where you will be importing your information from the IRS into your FAFSA. However, if you see this screen and the retrieval tool did not work for you, it's okay. You can continue on, but you will have to provide your information manually. The next section you will see is your personal circumstances. I don't know what all these little squigglies are doing on my presentation, but anyway, let's try to look away from those. The student will report their marital status, their college and career school plans. Even if you have um, you've clept out of courses, you've participated in dual enrollment, you've taken some AP courses, congratulations. You will receive credit for those at your college. However, for federal student aid purposes and for financial aid, all of those who have never participated in the federal student aid process before must report that they are first-year freshmen. The student will then consider the questions that are listed here, these statements. This is what's going to determine if a student needs to provide parental information, classifying them as a dependent student, or if a student can select one of these statements and provide legal documentation that they are in that situation, they will skip over the parent section and file the FAFSA as an independent student. All right. I see somebody in our form. Next, the student will answer questions about his living arrangements. If he is in a homeless situation, if he's identified by his district as being homeless, then he will want to select that here. What if the student cannot select one of the prior statements, but he still has some unusual circumstances? That's fine. He will be led through a series of screens that will help him determine if he has unusual circumstances. Those circumstances are listed here. Has the student been abandoned by his parents, but hasn't been adopted? The student's left home due to an abusive situation, or the student is incarcerated or his parents are incarcerated. Perhaps the student has been granted a refugee or asylee status, or he is a victim of human trafficking. All those are unusual circumstances. However, these statements do not reflect unusual circumstances. Perhaps your parents don't want to claim the student or they don't claim the student on their tax returns from 2024. That's not an unusual circumstance. The student doesn't live with his parents and demonstrates total self-sufficiency. That is not an unusual circumstances. The parent doesn't want to provide information due to privacy concerns, that will not qualify the student as having unusual circumstances, and neither does the parent refusing to pay for your education expenses. Now, if you do find yourself in an unusual circumstance, you can always contact the financial aid office at the school that you're planning to attend, and you can let them know that you have a situation and you want to work with them directly. If you do have a special situation, an unusual circumstance, you will want to contact the financial aid office at the college or colleges that you are applying to, and they will work with you directly through an appeal process. Next, the student will be asked if he is interested in student loans only. And I always say no, because you want to be considered for all of the other grant opportunities that we talked about a little bit earlier. Next, we'll move to the student demographic section, where the student will be asked um, about his gender and race or ethnicity, his citizenship status, his parents' education status, and this is important. If neither of your parents um, graduated from college, you may be eligible for additional financial aid. The financial aid office can help you work through some other options. Next, they'll ask for the student's tax filing status, their high school completion status, and then move on into the financial section of the FAFSA. If a student filed a tax return in 2024, he will be asked to provide information about his filing status. Now, it looks here that this student was not able to link to the IRS, so these are the questions that will be asked of you to manually complete. If you have problems completing manually, please feel free to contact Leela and we will help you through the process. Our services are all free of charge. Next, the student will report the balances of his savings and checking accounts and add any cash he might have on hand. They'll move on into the college and career school section. Now, the students can add up to 20 schools. Even if you're just considering them, I would add those schools to the FAFSA. You can add up to 20. It looks like this student has added 4 colleges, but if you do want to send your FAFSA data to more than 20 schools, give us a call and we'll help you work through that. But remember, federal student aid is not going to send out your personal information to every school around the country. You must give them permission on the FAFSA to send your financial information over to that school. So be sure and list them. Next, if you're a dependent student, as this student is, you will need to invite a parent as a contributor. Now, this is a legal parent. And here's what you want to take note of. And you'll be worked through the form by the series of questions that Federal Student Aid poses to you. But basically, if the legal parents were never married, then the parent who provided the most financial support in the past 12 months will serve as a contributor on the student's FAFSA. Now, if both of the student's parents are unmarried but live together, they will both have to provide information on your FAFSA. If they're married, of course, they both have to provide info. But what if they are divorced and remarried or widowed? Then the student will report the parent, and then the step parent will have to provide information as well. But if the student is divorced, the student's parents are divorced or separated, It's the same as we spoke of before. The parent who provided the most financial support in the past 12 months should serve as a contributor. But you'll also have to include the step parent if that they're in that situation. Now, if you say, well, both of my parents contributed the same amount of money, then you're going to select the parent who had the greater income and assets, and that will be your contributor on the FAFSA. You will provide federal student aid with that contributor's email address and press send an invite. And then it's time for the student to sign his portion of the FAFSA. But please make sure that you are looking at all of the questions that you were asked and your answers to each of those by selecting the green arrow check mark to the left of each section, and it will unfold your questions and answers, and you can make sure that you have answered everything correctly. That would be the time for you to go back into the FAFSA and make any corrections that you might see. Now, what happens if you realize too late that you have made a FAFSA error? Then you're going to want to go back into the FAFSA and select uh, Edit My FAFSA on that home page. It's now time for the student to sign this legal document stating that the information he has provided is correct to the best of his knowledge. Once you sign the FAFSA, you will receive a pop-up telling you that your submission is pending, but it will also show you the email address of the contributor that you've sent the invite to. There's a lot of great information on the pop-up that you will receive. That information will also be emailed directly to the student's email account. You'll want to make sure that you're reviewing your FAFSA submission summary. Once your FAFSA has been completed and processed, it will be emailed to you as well. In the meantime, your parents have received your invitation. You'll see that there's an invitation code here that the parents can either click on the link within that email that they've received, inviting them to contribute, or they can just go into the FAFSA and enter this on the home page and enter this invitation code, and it will take the parent contributor directly to that student's FAFSA. The parent will create a federal student aid ID just as the student did, and they will use that to log into the parent section. They will provide their invitation code here and submit. And they will also have to consent to have the IRS grab their tax info from 2024 and drop it into the student's FAFSA. If the parents do not want to contribute in this way, their student will only be eligible for student loans. So make sure your parents understand the importance of this process. This is a good sign that the parents' information is importing from the IRS. However, as mentioned before, if you do see this screen, you know that you need to grab your 2024 income tax returns with W-2s, and you will need to complete manually. The parents will provide information about themselves, stating their current marital status, their state of residence, and it could be in a different state. Perhaps the parent who provides you with the most financial resources in the past 12 months lives in another state. They will provide the state they're residing in and the date that they became citizens of that state. We'll move on into the parent financial section. And parents will want to report any federal benefits that they received, not the dollar amounts, but if they participated in any of these federal programs listed, then they will want to report that. Questions about their tax filing status will be asked, and you can find this out on your 2024 income tax return. It's up toward the top. It will state your tax filing status. Now, this is a question that we receive a lot. Why is it asking me what my family size is? It already has my tax return that was transferred in from the IRS. However, a lot can happen between the time that you file the 2024 return and the date that you submit your FAFSA. So make sure that you're updating this. If your return shows you have 4 dependents, but you have a new family member, you'll want to update that to 5. Now, they'll ask you the number in college. So how many students will that parent have in college during the 26-27 academic year? It's important to note that federal student aid no longer sends this information to the colleges. But if you find yourself in a situation where you have more than one child in college in the same academic year, please reach out to the financial aid offices because they may be able to provide you with some additional resources to help you during that year. This parent looks like he was unable to link to the IRS, so he will be asked to provide this information manually. If you have a question about one of the questions, there is a question mark beside each field that you can drop down and get a better understanding of exactly what they're asking you to report. If you need assistance, we're always there to help free of charge. The parent must list any child support that he received in the past calendar year. Now, this is the exact amount that you received. It's not what was court ordered to receive. It is not a monthly uh, fee or income. It is exactly what you received in the past 12 months. Parents will then be asked to provide their savings and checking account balances and add any cash that they have on hand here in this field. And then they must also report the current net worth of any investments, including real estate investments, but not the net worth of your family home. New this year, parents will report their net worth of any businesses and farms that they might have. However, they will not report the net worth of any family businesses with 100 or fewer employees, nor will they report any family farm worth or family fisheries. If you live on your family farm or your fishery, you do not have to report the net worth of that asset because that is considered your family home. They will begin to ask questions about your spouse's date of birth, if the student's parents are married or remarried. And then it's time to complete and sign the FAFSA as the contributor, the parent contributor. So again, make sure that you're satisfied with all of the answers to your questions by using that little green check mark beside each section, pulling down all of your questions and answers because you want the financial aid office to get the most accurate information so they can quickly provide you with a financial aid offer. The parent must read through this agreement stating that they are providing information to the best of their knowledge, and then they'll sign and submit. Once they do submit, they'll receive a pop-up that they have done that, and an email will be sent to them and to the student stating that your FAFSA has been successfully submitted. There are a lot of resources on these pop-ups, so make sure you're reading through each. It will certainly help you feel a little bit more familiar with the entire financial aid process. As I mentioned, it's so very important to look over your FAFSA submission summary and keep it on hand because there's information on the summary, such as the date that federal student aid received your application, the date that they processed it, which usually takes 3 to 5 days. It depends on how busy they are. And they also provide you with a data release number. And this number can be provided to your financial aid administrators at your colleges if you would like for them to make a correction on your behalf. You will see your estimated federal student aid offer. Now, remember that FAFSA does not provide you with your financial aid offer. That is the job of the financial aid administrators at your college. But they will tell you by looking over your FAFSA answers what you might be eligible for. It looks like this student was not eligible for a federal Pell Grant, but he was eligible for up to $9,500 in student loans, and he could be eligible for federal work study. So remember, you need to contact the financial aid office if you're interested in federal work study because they administer that program. There are resources like How Can I Make a Correction? Want to see my past eligibility for financial aid. Perhaps you're a parent and you've borrowed before and you want to take a look at your student loan balances. It will give you information on how to do that. Many students are interested and eager to find out what their student aid index is. And this is not a dollar amount, and it's a very complicated formula that federal student aid uses by grabbing your FAFSA data. And many private scholarship organizations ask for this student aid index. If it's a need-based scholarship, they will want to see your SAI. As I mentioned, you're going to want to drop down all your FAFSA data and make sure that the answers that you've given are correct. You can also see this form within your FAFSA summary that's going to be emailed to the student. And there are several other financial aid, many other financial aid questions answered within the FAFSA summary. So take a long look through it. If you do see that you've made an error and you want to update it, just go back to the home page, log in, and make those changes to the FAFSA. But you will have to submit it each time that you correct your FAFSA. It's always important to get your answers correct the first time because this information goes directly to the financial aid office. And they pull every day, they'll pull down FAFSA data and begin working on a student's financial aid offer. But they could be right in the middle of working on your offer, and here comes a correction. So they've got to start all over again. So please be very cautious about this form. If you want to take a look at the school's graduation rates, the retention rates, their transfer rates, the annual average cost of for the academic year, you can see that on the FAFSA summary. You can see every college that you applied to, that you sent your data to, and you can check out more about them. More resources to look over once you get to this point. Because all of this information is going to go, as I mentioned, directly to federal student aid. They're going to process your FAFSA and they're going to send your results out to every college that you've listed. The financial aid office at each of those schools usually waits until you have finished your application for admissions at their schools. So make sure you're getting that done as soon as possible as well. And they will review all that information and begin to work on your offer. They are trying to calculate the net price, which is the amount that you will be responsible for paying for that academic year. They will work on your cost of attendance at their college, which is going to differ from student to student. Some students are going to have a higher cost of attendance because they are actually living on campus. So take that into consideration. Then they will start looking for grants and scholarships that they can offer you to go to their school. Then each school should send you a financial aid offer, and they don't all look like this. They're not as easy to read, and they're not all as easy to read as this one is, but they all should show you the cost of attendance for you for that one academic year. They will break that down for you. The tuition expenses, or if you have a meal plan, then they will identify any grants and scholarships that they can award you. They will allow you to borrow up
You know
to
what I need you
cost
to
of
do?
attendance. Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry. Would you mind muting yourself? Everybody, if they're muted, that would be less distracting.
I'm
So
sorry about
take a look at the student loans offer. Remember, you always want to take, if you have to borrow, you always want to accept the direct subsidized portion first. These are the need-based loans. If you need additional loans, consider your unsubsidized loan. Federal work study will be listed here. If you've contacted the financial aid office, they can give you a general idea of what you might be earning during that academic year. And then if you've reported any outside or private scholarships to the financial aid office, then those will be listed as well. You'll want to take all of your offers and put them side by side. Maybe you want to make a nice spreadsheet like this to show you exactly, who's offering what. So if price is important to you, then you can see that. You want to make sure that you are accepting your aid in this order. Your scholarships and grants first. That's free money that does not have to be repaid. Federal work study, you've already earned that money, so you don't have to repay that. And then your last resort would be student loans. So everybody should be having a really good conversation with their parents about what a loan is and the responsibilities of borrowing. But if you need the money to complete that academic year, then the loans are a good investment. Just remember not to borrow more than you actually need. You'll want to make sure if you're borrowing that you are checking different sources to find out what their interest rates are. You can see Leela does administer a nonprofit education loan program. It's just for Louisiana residents. Our interest rates are very low because of our nonprofit status, so they could be a consideration for you if you need the money. You see what the direct loan rates are right now and other private lenders. So be cautious when you are selecting your lender to make sure you're getting the best rate. But please apply and continue to apply for scholarships because the more scholarships that you earn, the less student loan debt you're going to have. And here's a list of sources that you can find them. But I know Mrs. Marks is has a probably great system of dispersing information to each of you about scholarships. This is prime time for seniors to be looking for those scholarships. So that's your homework. Leela offers a $1,000 FAFSA completion scholarship. This is a monthly drawing. It's a random drawing so that everybody has the same opportunity to win each month, and your name will stay in our system throughout the school year. So if you are planning to complete a FAFSA, you can actually use this QR code to apply now, stating that you will complete a FAFSA, and then you will be considered every month throughout your senior year. For those of you who are planning to attend a Louisiana college or are already attending, maybe mom and dad are in school, um, you are all eligible as Louisiana residents to apply for this scholarship, if you choose a school in our state. We have completed our FAFSA completion guide for the class of 2026. This is a free resource for every Louisiana high school senior and family. You can go to our website at lila.org to download your copy. We are in the process of printing these now and we'll be sending them on to the school for distribution there. If you are very eager to get started on the FAFSA, which opens officially on October 1st, so mark your calendars, you can always apply for the beta program. Quite a few individuals have already completed their FAFSAs. This is a testing period that is open right before the FAFSA opens. So if you want to get an early start, you can apply at the web address listed in the bottom right-hand corner. We also publish a senior checklist for college planning. So if you're going on to school in this next fall, you'll want to follow this closely. We have lots of links to resources and scholarships that are available to you as Louisiana citizens. I would be happy to answer some questions this evening. Let's see what time it is. If you have specific questions, I'm happy to answer them tonight. I'll be here until you stop asking me the questions. So, or if you prefer to talk to me in private, you can always email me, carmichael@lila.org. You can call our FAFSA helpline, or you can schedule a free virtual FAFSA session by scanning this QR code, which takes you directly to our calendar, and you can select a date and time that's best for you. We are already scheduling appointments. We are helping students and parents create their federal student aid IDs and also answering general questions about the whole process. So